Well, welcome everyone to New Growth Family Center here in Mount Forest. Really glad to see you here tonight. This is a topic, homework strategies, that is an ongoing problem in families all over. It's as a teacher specialist with behavior and learning disabilities, I would say that one of the biggest complaints that I hear midway through the year, or actually after Thanksgiving, is that there are homework battles going on. And families are actually torn apart and stressed, and parents are at kids and kids are at parents. And so I decided that we would share 30 plus years of experience. And what I want to do tonight is make sure that we can change your view of what homework is. I'm actually going to redefine homework and give you some wonderful things that I promise you're going to enjoy. Homework has become a dirty word. It's associated with threats and warnings and punishment and even solitary confinement. Go and do your homework. It can turn a happy family into a war zone and spoil family relationships for years. It can even set up battle lines between teachers and parents. Tonight we're going to redefine the word and appreciate the real meaning. I'll also introduce you to some homework that everyone can enjoy. Why do kids need homework? Well, back in the day, before my time, of course, learning was appreciated and education was a privilege. The student who learned a new skill would take it home and practice at the kitchen table with a snack and a glass of milk. By the way, this is one of my strategies. Hungry people get grouchy and can't think. So have some food before or at the homework table, and what a great time to serve dessert. Homework, as it is meant to be, is individual practice, a skill that's learned in a large group in a classroom, to go home and be on your own and be free to practice, ask questions, and make mistakes without anybody looking over your shoulder. It's for independent thinking, so you don't have to compete with others. You can just get your head around it, a new concept in science or math, and just enjoy getting your mind wrapped around that. It's for work completion, and that's not a whole assignment, but it's part of some work that was not done because of interruptions or just having a rough day. It's for creativity and enhancement, and it's for adding color, doing title pages, adding beautiful colors and sparkle to a work, and bring a finished product from a C level up to a B or even an A. It's for building in homework time for higher level learning. And if these principles and practices and this time is built into a day for younger children and into families, it just moves automatically into high school, college, university years. I need to tell you though that if these are not established and homework has become a battle, it's very, very difficult to turn that around by the age of 15 or 16. I'd like to change the word homework into what I call brain training activities. I've got some on the table just to get you started, because I don't want you to be bored. I want you to be active and involved. And these are games that we use here at the Family Center. I run a day program for students who have severe difficulties, learning disabilities, or they have behavior problems that have interfered with their learning for a number of years and have missed a lot of learning and a lot of skills at whatever grade level they are intended to be in. I want to share with you card games. Does anyone remember the game War? You can add that to math and use it for addition or multiplication especially. And it's just two people, cards turned down, whatever turns up, multiply it. The first answer to be called out wins the cards and gets the points. We do that here with the large cards. And they also love the mini cards too. The more novelty you can put in it, the more fun it is. There's a game we have called 99. These are not mine, by the way. These are someone else's games, so I don't want to take credit for them. But they're old-fashioned. Should I say they're new-fashioned? Everything old is new again. We use Lego blocks. And you start with 3 pieces. Those are your lives. The game starts out and each person is to put down a card, and each one is a face card and you add them up. The key is 5 plus 6 is 11. 11 plus 2 is 13. The key is you cannot go past 99, but it's a great way to add. There's certain cards that can reverse it. There's cards that you can keep it on the level. There's cards that bring it to 99 immediately and makes it really challenging. The person who's out first loses a life. When you lose 3 lives, you're done. We have lots of fun with these, and we have kids adding and wanting to add. It's super. I have a game that I've devised, Jenga, and I've just brought a few so we didn't have a tower collapse up here tonight. But the Jenga tower is about 18 levels high, crisscross, and what I've added to that, it's called Math Jenga. And what we do is 5 plus 5, and as long as they get the answer, they can remove a Jenga block and put it on the top. It can be for subtraction, it can be for multiplication, and the highest level, which is really challenging, is doing mental math, where you're giving them up to 4 computations in a group to get the answer and get the Jenga block. Something like 3 times 7 plus 2, and you can add more to them, where you're adding, you're multiplying, you're adding, you're subtracting, and you're even dividing. But it starts training the brain so that the kids can learn to do math in their head. When I say that's an old skill, I remember doing that back in the day, but kids are having difficulty adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing in their heads these days. But they love this game. I can tell you, we've had 5, 6 kids around the table downstairs, and the tension is great. It's not stressful tension, but it's challenging, and they just love it and love to be able to do math in their head. It's amazing. This can also be adapted to spelling, and it could be for French or English, but it's to practice vocabulary words, and as long as the person can say the word or spell the word, and then they get to move a Jenga piece. The key is that once the tower falls, and that's the exciting part, that's the tension, but it is in a good way. They like a little competition. I use dice games as well. These are for younger kids. They're from the dollar store somewhere, but you can roll the die, and they need to add the 2 numbers, count up if they're very young. They can count in English or French. They can add. You can add 3 of them and start building on them. Just throw them on the floor. Smaller dice. Add a red and a yellow. Subtract a green, whatever combination you want, and start with the numbers, seeing the numbers and being able to count up and get that facility. They love it. It's playing on the floor. Homework on the floor, on the table, wherever you want to be. A game called Stare. This is building memory skills. For this game, there are pictures in there. They have 3 minutes to look at the picture and remember details about the picture. The other player then asks a question. How many people are sitting at the table without looking at it again? Building memory strategies. These are skills. We're not born with skills. We learn skills. But these, and you can use any pictures. You can even use real objects and have a dice, a piece of Lego, a Jenga piece, a pencil, and put them on the table, cover them up, and take one away. They can either name all the pieces that are there or name the one that's missing. But that's starting to train memory skills early in life, and it is fun. Gain memory, and what we're seeing now is that children do not have memory capacity. Actually, adults don't either. But the fact is to practice those memory skills. It doesn't mean they're gone. You rebuild them, you reestablish them, or you start to develop them. The memory game is to have groups of cards in pairs and then shuffle them and put them all out over the table. The goal is to be able to pick a card and match the other one. You need to remember the placement of the cards, and we can do some of this after if you're not familiar. But when a person takes a turn and they would show up a boot, oops, they match. Okay? They're turned back down. When it's your turn, if you pick up a boot over here, you need to remember that that boot was there. Kids love this. They can be done with simple cards like this for young kids in English or French or German or whatever you like, any language. And these are extreme sports cards that, especially for the guys and gals, they're older kids. And these are extreme biking, and they're match sets like that. It's the same kind of game. One of the first things I realized is that parents have difficulty with homework. Trauma, adults have memories of teachers, bad experiences, and they get stressed out. So changing your view of homework and possibly facing your past trauma about homework can work wonders. Kudos for being here with me tonight to even talk about it. But I hear horror stories of days gone by, and I almost have to apologize for being a teacher. So my goal is that I'm going to change your view of it, and I'm going to change your view of teachers and what this means, and also to help you introduce some of these fun things that are really going to build skills in your kids. Fear and trauma can affect us for life. It shows up as stress, and it transfers to our kids. How many of you freeze when the word math is mentioned? Okay. Spelling? Writing? What about speeches? The freeze response, followed by an I'm out of here attitude by either parent when homework is mentioned, is visible to kids. As I mentioned before, skills are not genetic. We're not born with them. They're learned over time and through repetition and practice, especially when it takes place in the comfort and security of your own home. A busy classroom cannot compete with a comfortable home environment for independent thinking and freedom to practice and make mistakes with an attentive adult nearby. You can relax and let yourself learn. Ask a question just that pops into your head, and take a break when you need it. When I mention an adult nearby, parents can typically say, go do your homework. But children need to have someone nearby. There's just a reassurance there, and when they get stressed, just to have someone in the room that they could ask that question if they need to. And those of you with younger children will know they're asking questions all the time. Those of us who have seen older kids, that questioning stops. Why does it stop? Is it because they stop thinking? Is it because they have fewer questions? No. It's because they don't have attentive adults who are there and available and able to answer their questions. We tend to think of that as being overly dependent. We need to push them away. No, as a teacher, I have realized that 12 to 15, 16 and up, they need to have someone there at first, and then they gradually move away. As I've mentioned, I work with kids with extreme needs, with many disabilities, learning disabilities, attention deficit disorder, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, Asperger's syndrome, trauma and attachment disorder. And those children need to be in a safe, secure relationship, in a safe place. And whenever there's a new lesson, I see that stress. But when they're sitting right beside me, and when they're able to look up and I'm still there, the next stage is that I'm able to work on something else while they're working. And eventually it gets to a point where, do you need me to sit beside you? And they will say, no, I can do this myself now. With the children that I work with, this could take months. But with kids who have that all through their lives, You're already building that into them and they're able to do that. And they become independent much more quickly than if you're pushing them away too soon. I have some skill building activities here that I'm going to share with you. These were memory and math and spelling and all of those. These build the brain capacity to be able to learn more. Coloring and drawing for young children, that prepares hands for pencils and pens and handwriting. It also creates an awareness of color and creativity and just stirs that up. Sparkly pencils, pencil crayons, 3D markers, all those things are so amazing. When I shop at the stores, to see all of these things, I could have bundles of them. They're just marvelous. Some of these for older kids, which I'll share with you, but doing coloring projects like this, especially boys. Boys have less ability early in their lives. Their hands are bigger, they're created for different things. But to be able to hold a pencil and to be able to do fine writing is certainly possible. But by having more practice, and boys typically don't like to color, but having real life pictures, I use cars, Lamborghinis, Maseratis, we've got books of those, and I call it authentic coloring. And that's to give them metallic pencil crayons and those kinds of things. It's very relaxing, it's very calming, and I build that into our day, and these kids just love it. And from there, then they will move into drawing and things like that. This builds the skills and the creativity for doing title pages, for doing enhancements on any kind of project at school, and can really raise marks in high school and in the intermediate grades if they've already started doing these kinds of things. Reading to a child doesn't stop when they're over 5. Being able to read, I call it tag team reading, and it could be from their schoolwork, and we can add that in as you start adding these times that the children enjoy working. When you start creating the habit when the children enjoy doing the homework, you can build in school skills and start to add in the assignments from the classroom, such as reading. But I call it tag team reading, and it's a paragraph by the adult, paragraph by the child. I use that technique with kids who are really anti-reading and have great difficulty, but they thoroughly enjoy it. I have a technique I use, it's called movie in your head. It's related to television or movies, and to prepare a child to learn to read and see the pictures and actually comprehend what's going on in the book or in the story. So I'm going to do an example with you here. Okay, you're going to be the students. Okay, I'm going to ask you to make sure that you're good and comfortable. If we were at home, you could have your jammies on and you got your feet up and a hot chocolate or a cup of tea or whatever that may be. And I'm going to ask you to just find a spot where you're comfortable. Look at the ceiling or look at the floor, probably not look at me. And you just want to take yourself into another place. I ask you to take a nice deep breath and just relax there. And I'm going to start reading, and while I'm reading, I want you to see what's going on. It's a movie in your head. Just picture it. The boy was crying now. Not that there was any new or sudden sorrow. There just seemed to be nothing else to fill up the vast lostness of the moment. His nose began to run and itch. The tears ran down through the cobwebs and dust that covered his face, making little rivulets. The boy rubbed his eyes with his dirty hands and mixed dust with the tears. His eyes began to smart. He followed the road the way the wagon had taken his father, as far as he dared leave the fire and the children in the cabin, still in hollering distance. There was no sign of Saunders' body. He spiraled the brown stockland in ever-widening circles, searching the fence rows as he went. Under the jack oaks and the cottonwoods, there was nothing. In the matted Scotch broom tangle, he visualized the great tan body of the dog, as he carefully picked each step, but the dog was not there. Did you see anything? Did you feel anything? Did you hear anything? Now, we would go on with that, but doing this kind of reading with your child at home after the age of 5, because I find people stop reading as soon as they start school and believe that the school will now take over the reading. No, it needs to continue at home with this kind of reading. And to serialize it, to read a chapter one night and have that excitement of looking at what's going to happen the next day, kids really, really enjoy that. And that's the older ones too. I have some games that promote logical thinking, and these are math skills as well. Rush Hour, if you've ever seen this one. There's a junior version for young kids, and there's adult versions. The kids really enjoy being better than me. But adults love this. We had one family, and their uncle was visiting from Ottawa. And he started playing while we were talking, and we couldn't get him to the dinner table because he just wouldn't stop. It's kind of addictive. We need to be careful with that. These are great too. These are like minute mysteries, and it promotes listening skills, figuring out how it's going to work. I'll do one with you. And when you try it, it just gets you going. Okay, listen carefully. Okay. And these are mystery puzzles. This is Dr. Quicksolve, and he's a detective, and he goes in and investigates crimes. Holy Donuts. Dr. J.L. Quicksolve arrived at the scene of the robbery, the office of the D.D. Donuts Company. Gerald Creamfill was being questioned by a uniformed policeman, Officer Longshot. Mr. Creamfill was just explaining what happened. I was sitting here at my desk. I heard someone come in. Before I could turn around, someone hit me on the head. He tied me to my chair and blindfolded me. He had a gun, and he forced me to open the safe. He took all the money, and then he left. Can you describe the robber, Mr. Creamfill? Dr. Quicksolve asked. No. Like I said, I was blindfolded, Mr. Creamfill responded. What did you do after the robber left? Quicksolve asked then. Well, after he left, I rocked my chair back and forth until I fell over. The chair broke, and I was able to untie myself. It probably took me half an hour or so to get loose. When I did, of course, I called the police right away, Mr. Creamfill explained. Mr. Creamfill, said Dr. Quicksolve, I'm afraid there's a hole in your story bigger than the holes in your donuts. Now, tell us the truth about this. Why did Dr. Quicksolve suspect Mr. Creamfill? You can answer, he'll take it off if you want to. Okay. He claims he opened the safe after he was tied up and blindfolded. This is timing. This is what happened first, what happened after sequencing. And it's similar to this, where the memory has to kick in. But there's a lot of discussion that goes on, and it's like who did what and where, and that discussion just stirs up that thinking. And then when the answer comes, the first one is the most difficult. And then as you get the hang of it, you start learning which details to listen to. What happened first? What was he wearing? You know, those kinds of things. So it's really fun. Professor Noggin, these are fabulous games for reading. They are inexpensive. They come in all kinds of topics. And these are a fun game for adults. It stirs up the reading for older kids as well. There's 2 levels in it, that there's the easy level of questions and more difficult. They're on various topics, and I actually use this for readers or non-readers or kids who do not like reading. So to give some kids a book, especially kids with severe difficulties and behavior issues, will refuse to read, where they will play a game. So I would do a whole science unit using this game because it builds in body awareness, health issues, how your body grows, how your body functions. And this one is on animals, safari, insects. Hockey is a big hit. It's my worst. They love to challenge me because I know very little about it. Inventions in science, Canada, geography, history. For the geography and history, I keep a map and we pinpoint where the countries are, give them the books that they can go to. They love to be able to look it up. It's not cheating, it's getting helps. But these are marvelous. These are available at many stores. They're very inexpensive and we keep adding collections to them, but even the older kids love them. I'll show you how to play it later. We'll put it on the video.
Sounds good.
It's good. These as well, for younger kids. I've used them for kids who are non-readers, kids who have very limited focusing, kids who cannot focus for longer than 3 to 5 minutes. I use these for kids who have limited focusing ability. I have children who are here, non-readers, who have the ability to focus for probably 3 to 5 minutes maximum. But these, it's a second-hand book. And there's many variations of them, but to be able to find, locate whatever it is you're looking for. You even use a magnifying glass. But I teach them to start in one area, move across the page, and you start that tracking for reading. They like to challenge, they get a little more challenging, but to be able to start in one spot. Getting some ideas? How much is too much homework? When it's all work completion, when it's every day, when it's too repetitive, the same thing over and over, when you can't understand the directions, when it keeps coming back and never completed, when it takes too long, and too long varies by the age of the young person or your family, and when you can't see the purpose. Homework needs to be repetitive, but I have instances where the same homework, it's just done on a weekly basis, the same exercise. When it gets boring for the young person, when they're not building any new skills, when they're just doing it as automatic to get it done, that can be a problem with repetition. And what do you do with that? Call the teacher as soon as possible. I always tell my parents, you need to communicate, don't be intimidated. Teachers are there to help your kids, and you need to make the communication happen. If the teacher is not interested in communicating as often as you like, then you need to keep doing it. And you can do it in various forms. Emails are wonderful now, and being able to speak to the principal or set up a time, but make sure that you are asking. Teachers are busy, school is busy, kids are busy, everything's busy, but no one should ever be too busy to speak with a parent. Remember that your trauma is over, and ask. We do have parents, as I said, who have school experiences that have remained with them all their lives, and now they're applying that to their children's education. You need to get over that, and you need to move in and be an advocate for your child and communicate regularly. Be aware that difficulties at home may indicate learning problems which need to be identified. So that again is a reason to communicate if your child is having difficulty with that. I put together some strategies for homework, and you'll notice I've changed the spelling on the list, not homework, but it's homework. And these are very effective. And so I'm going to pass them all on to you to use at home. Number 1 is set up a comfortable place for you and your child to use. It should be away from distractions in high traffic areas. It could be a bedroom or the dining room or even a hallway. It doesn't matter. But it should be the same place most of the time. That's routine. Reading quiz questions and discussions can even be done in the car on the way to somewhere. It's not the best opportunity, but for those kinds of situations and just asking questions, it can work. I want to mention to you about distractions and having televisions on, having radio on, having someone on a computer somewhere else with noise. Those distractions need to be limited. They can take over a house. I know of homes where the television is on in the morning and breakfast, they're raising their voices over the television, and then the battles begin. The same thing in the evening. If at all possible, you turn it down and set aside that time for homework. It's a routine time. It's a time when everybody's able and willing and ready to do that. But to set aside that chunk of time in order to put the homework in there. Screen time issues, which is television, computer, games, capture the brain. They can't stop. I had an experience myself a number of years ago with a game called Tetris. My daughter introduced it to me, and I realized that yes, anybody can get addicted to it. I dreamt about it, I couldn't stop it. I burned food because I had to finish the game before I could get up to go to the kitchen. And it's almost embarrassing to mention it, but I use it now because I've experienced it myself. Had to have the game taken away and had to take it from my life. So when you say that kids do get addicted to games and television and they can't stop, the answer is yes, they can't stop. It's not that they won't. I have a story about a student who was so keyed into noise and volume going on that during his time here, he was 15 years old, he could not be quiet. We used pink noise, which is quiet music in the background, to cover the sounds because he could hear the sound of the heater coming on, or he could hear someone scraping a pen on the paper beside him. He had super sensitivity to sound. He had ADHD and some other conditions, so it was very real. But he could literally hear a pin drop in the other room. In order to get him to be comfortable in a quiet place in his own head, he had earplugs, he had a toque, and he had a headband. And we had quiet music playing for him to get comfortable enough that he could even be on his own in a quiet room. And that was an extreme story. But it did happen, and he was able to do that. Because otherwise there was just the noise was going on all the time. He could not be in his own mind, as I call it. Decide which adult will work with the child. Usually one parent can relate better to one child. For instance, one parent to help with math and the other with language. If you're a single parent, you could ask for relief from a family member or a neighbor. Even teachers have difficulty helping their own children, so know that, and with homework. So don't feel intimidated and bad that you can't work on math with your child. Establish a safe, supportive relationship in a comfortable place to provide a positive learning experience at home. And this is actually changing the whole mindset from homework becoming a dirty, mean word to becoming a really positive, fun experience, to being able to think and learn and just grow intellectually. By making it comfortable for the adult, it becomes comfortable for the child. And your stress level definitely speaks to the stress level of the child. Set a time that fits your schedule. By doing this, you're less stressed and able to bring calmness and clarity and focus on the work to be done. Your attitude and demeanor at this time speaks volumes to your child. That old go and do your homework, out of my face, I'm cooking or I'm doing this. It happens all the time, and the homework battle just escalates. Remember, the person with the math skill may not always be the best match to help the child with math. The best match is the most regulated or calm person who can read the instructions, give the best explanation, and be there to encourage and correct and remain calm and consistent. I have a story from a friend of mine, and her father used to help her with math. He was an accountant in a company, and math to him was very easy. But when it came to helping her, he would get so stressed out and impatient. And in that day, it was to hit her on the head with a pencil. And that was a trauma for her. And math is like a fear in her life. Make sure that you and your child have both had food, water, and a break. The break can be relax or activity from the workday before tackling homework. Do it as early in the evening as possible to avoid the before bed battles. Avoid the last minute Sunday night battle by setting the time on Friday evening or early Saturday. Timing is everything. Again, I get calls from parents, crisis calls, because there are issues that happen in a home and they may need some mediation. And I get calls on Sunday evenings because the homework battle, it's been left till Sunday night. And now it's time to do the homework before Monday morning. And there have been physical aggressions in a home because of that. If there seems to be too much homework, contact the teacher to find out his or her purpose for assigning that homework. Number one, you're setting up the communication. You're defining the fact for your family that there is too much. You're also asking what is the purpose. And most times teachers provide homework, and if nothing is said, it just seems fine. And sometimes parents won't say anything, and that sets up the battleground between the teacher and the parent, where communication will solve that right away. If the instructions are hard to follow for yourself, contact the teacher. I myself have done homework assistance and have had trouble reading the instructions, and I'm a teacher. I myself will sign my name and admit that I don't understand this and send it back. And don't be intimidated to do it, because if you can't understand it as an adult, how can a child? Ask for the instructions and purpose for your own understanding as well as your child's. Things are different from when you went to school, so don't be intimidated. A parent who is a grade 4 teacher may well have difficulty helping with a grade 8 math. If your child is forgetting and avoiding homework, contact the teacher to let him or her know. Identify learning problems to get the help the child needs at school as soon as possible. Avoidance can be a signal for learning problems, or it can signal a need for better communication between home and school to head off a procrastination problem. Kids typically try to avoid, procrastinate until there's a pile of homework. It doesn't get from the desk to the backpack, from the backpack to the home. Again, that can set up an issue between the teacher and the parent. So immediately get in there and set that up. Is it a learning problem, or is it a child who's just trying to get out of it? If homework becomes a battle in your house, hire a tutor. A homework battle is not worth risking your relationship with your child, yourself, and the rest of your family. And believe me, I have been in positions where houses are literally torn up over homework, and parents are alienated from their kids, parents are alienated from the school, and they don't want to hear anything about school issues at home at all. And that child then is losing out on all of the things that I've shared with you, and that family is losing out on all of the wonderful things that they can learn together with their child. Got a couple of extra tidbits for you. using a timer sets up time management and time slots. So kids start to develop how long is 20 minutes, how long is 30 minutes. So to say that, for instance, if they're having a relaxed time before the time with their learning, then to set up 20 minutes and set the timer, and when the timer goes, then it's time for the work to begin, or the brain training activities. The other is, this is very useful for screen time and computer stuff, because as kids get older and want to use computers, we want them to, but to be able to use a timer and set a 30-minute time with a 10-minute warning, that they know that when the first timer goes off, they've got 10 minutes to finish up, clean up, do whatever, save, all of that stuff. And when that timer goes, it's done. It saves you as parents being the timekeeper. It saves battles. It saves the constant reminders. It saves the later, I'll do it soon, all of that kind of thing. And I have had situations, I'm going to give you the worst of the worst, because it's not to frighten you, but it's to say this is what can happen in homes if these things are not addressed earlier on, is that a parent has become so frustrated that they have actually pulled the plug on the game or on the computer, and a parent has been assaulted by their own child because that game has become so important in that life. Try to limit your child's exposure to the TV as a break before homework and before bedtime and before going to school. Not let's get dressed and ready and have cartoons, because then those cartoons capture the brain, and all of that is difficult again. I've got one more to share with you, and this one is for writing. On this, that we did math, we did memory, we did some spelling, we did some sequencing and those kinds of things. This one is called sentence building, and it's for developing writing habit. But what we have here is just a number of words on a page or on a piece of paper. So the goal is that that you would pick out one, and here the word is lions. Okay, so let's do this one. Okay, the word is lions. Just close your eyes for a minute. I want you to think about lions. What's a lion look like? Where have you seen lions? What do you know about lions? And I'm just going to give you a minute to just think that through. Okay, tell me what you thought of about lions.
Me and my mom always wanted to raise a baby lion. It's always been a dream of ours.
Okay. Put that down exactly as you said it on a piece. Don't do it. Put it down on a piece of paper, and there's your writing. That's a complete thought. That's a complete sentence. Okay?
Myself on lions?
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lion chasing after wild animals to eat in the desert.
Okay.
Strong.
There would be your thought. Okay? And you've got some extra words in there, which would be, as if I were there with you, I would start putting those into another sentence, so you would have a paragraph by the time you're finished. If you start this with younger kids, and there's just a variety of categories, we make up our own categories. Could be animals, food, whatever, and by the time you get a whole collection, you can do 3 or 4 sentences in a night, and within a month, they start writing full pages. I'm telling you that. It can be done in English or French. There is the information for you. Okay, I've only just begun, but what I wanted to give to you tonight was just a sampling, and to say there's a number of things that you can use that can enhance and increase your children's learning, to develop the habit of homework, of learning together, of growing together intellectually, and just have some fun with it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I hope that you've gained some valuable information for yourself and the children in your care. New Growth Family Center programs provide support for parents, caregivers, teaching staff, and child care workers. Please contact us at 519-509-6432 to find out more information about adult coaching programs, respite learning and activity programs, support day program, and for in-service staff training or field placements for teachers, EAs, and social services workers at New Growth Family Center in Mount Forest.